Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer deck tech. So today, we're going to be talking about blue-white flyers in Pioneer. Very excited to talk about the list today, and as always, before we hop into it here, let me know in the comment section below after the video is done what you think about the list. What do you like about it? What do you hate about it? What would you change? And as always, if there's any deck ideas that you have, let me know in the comment section below, and it will be considered for a future video. So, all right, a little bit of backstory with this deck. So, me and Hunter slash BG Stilts, depending on what do you like to call him, we were talking about this the other day when we were recording a paper episode, which, by the way, keep an eye out for that. We're like, man, what if we did, like, blue-white flyers? Like, I've always really liked the card that's in our thumbnail here, Skycat Sovereign, except back in the day, there was a card called Pride of the Clouds that I used to lose to all the time. Like, that was just one of the new player like cards that just like crushed me all the time was Pride of the Clouds. And essentially, spoiler alert, Skycat Sovereign is in our deck today, and it's pretty much a better Pride of the Clouds. I'm like, man, I kind of want to make that card work. So we were kind of thinking, you know, what could we do to make a card like that work? And we decided to just build blue-white flyers. A little bit different than Spirits overall. There are some Spirits in the deck and cards that Spirits does play in general, but we're more of just vanilla flyers than we are Spirits. I'm not necessarily saying that this is a better version of the Spirits deck. I'm just saying this is kind of a different way to shake things up a little bit, and also, if you're on a little bit more of a budget, you can definitely consider playing this deck instead. So, all right, we're going to hop right into it here. We are playing 4 Judge's Familiar and 4 Mausoleum Wanderer. They're very similar cards, so I'm kind of throwing them together. They're both 1/1s for 1 with flying. Then we can sacrifice them to counter target instant or sorcery spell, unless its controller pays 1. Although, Mausoleum Wanderer is technically better, because whenever another spirit enters the battlefield, Mausoleum Wanderer gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and then when you sacrifice it, they have to pay X, where X is the power. So, it is better than Judge's Familiar, but we are still playing both of them, because obviously, you know, being able to sacrifice them to counter instant or sorcery can be very relevant against a lot of different decks, and we just want 8 of this effect overall. We're also playing 2 Spectral Sailors. It's a 1/1 for 1 Spirit Pirate with Flash and Flying. 3 and a blue, we can draw a card. Just a really good card in general. I decided to play 10 1-drops in the deck. Spectral Sailor, I think, was the next best option. There definitely is a couple different options you could play in terms of 1-drop flyers. We did consider playing Healer's Hawk at one point as well, but we decided to play these 10 1-drops in the deck. So, next we have a couple of our 2-drops, and Brazen Bar is just kind of a random card I threw in here. So, we're playing 4 Watcher of the Spheres. That's white and blue for a 2/2 Bird Wizard with Flying. A Bird Wizard! Fantastic creature typing. Creature spells with Flying you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever another creature with Flying enters the battlefield under your control, Watcher of the Spheres gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Watcher of the Spheres is really just a great flying creature in general. It's one of those cards where it's not a spirit, but it's a very, very good card. So, you know, because it's not a spirit, it's like one of those cards where it's like, yeah, it's good, but, you know, you got to find the right deck for it. And I think this is definitely a very good deck for Watcher of the Spheres. The creatures costing 1 less to cast, we're honestly not taking too much advantage of. Like, there are, you know, like the Brazen Borrower, and spoiler alert, we are playing Spell Queller. But overall, we're not even playing it for the 1 less to cast. We're really just playing it just because it's just fantastic being able to play it. And it gets bigger when we play more flyers, which is just really, really good. So, next, my personal favorite card in the deck. We are playing 4 Skycat Sovereigns. It's a 1/1 for white and blue with Flying Elemental Cat. Skycat Sovereign gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with Flying. Then we can pay 2 white-blue. Create a 1/1 white catbird creature token with Flying, which is very unique typing for sure. Again, Skycat Sovereign, if we have 6 flyers, it's a 6/6. I mean, that's pretty much how it goes. However many flyers we have is how big the cat is. So it can be definitely very, very big if our opponent does not have flyers to block it. Skycat Sovereign is going to get really, really big, really, really fast, and it's just going to take over the game. So I love Skycat Sovereign. We're also playing 2 Brazen Borrower. We can cast it for the Petty Theft for 1 and a blue instant. Return a non-land permanent opponent controls to its owner's hand. Then we can play the Brazen Borrower, 1 blue, 3/1 Flash Flying. Can only block creatures with Flying. Brazen Borrower, just an extremely efficient card overall. Obviously, though, being able to bounce a non-land permanent one of our opponent's controls is fantastic, as well as being able to play a flyer that we can turn sideways. And obviously, we're playing a Flyers deck, so it's fantastic for the deck. So rounding out our creatures here, we were playing 4 Spell Queller. It's a 2/3 for 1 white blue spirit with flash and flying. When Spell Queller enters the battlefield, exile target spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. When it leaves the battlefield, the exiled card owner may cast the card without paying its mana cost. So obviously, for the stack, it's kind of like a Banisher Priest-esque card. Obviously, if our opponent tries to cast something that's 4 or less we don't want him to cast, we just Spell Queller. We take that spell and we just attack with the Spell Queller. Spell Queller is just a fantastic card in the deck. You could definitely argue that it is the best, I would say, in the entire list. We are also playing 4 Empyrean Eagle. It's a 2/3 for 1 white blue. Bird spirit with flying. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. It is the only Lord we are playing in the deck. Very, very late into the deck's design, we were playing favorable winds. Spoiler alert, we did end up cutting them. There was just a couple cards that I really, really wanted to play. I wanted to make sure we had plenty of flyers in the deck, and I didn't want to thin out really any creatures. But regardless, Empyrean Eagle is fantastic. It's a Lord that does exactly what we need to do. It does buff the Mausoleum Wonder as well because it is a bird spirit. So Empyrean Eagle, absolutely fantastic Lord for the deck. So rounding out the Flyers, we're technically playing a 7-drop, but spoiler alert, we're not going to be paying 7 mana for it. It's Safara Sky's Blade. It's 4 white, white, white for a 7/7 legendary creature Angel. So it has flying and lifelink and gives our other creatures that have flying indestructible. But we can pay a white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than pay this spell's mana cost. So if we have a whole bunch of flyers out, we just play 1 white and tap them, and we just get to cheat out this giant angel, which is fantastic. So Safari Sky's Blade, I love the card. Definitely, I'm always looking for excuses to be able to play a card like this for sure. So very, very cool card to be playing in the deck. It's not the one that comes up very often, but cool nonetheless. So that is our creature package. We're going to go to our non-creature serve. We don't have very many. We're playing 4 Curious Obsession. It's 1 blue enchantment. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with a creature this turn, sacrifice Curious Obsession. Obviously, put it on our 1 or 2 drops very early on. Give it 1/1 and start drawing some cards. Curious Obsession, for those who have played it when it was in Standard or have played some Pioneer recently, Curious Obsession is a very, very, very good card. We're also playing 4 Lofty Denial. 1 in a blue instant, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. If you control a creature with flying, counter that spell unless its controller pays 4, which, spoiler alert, we're playing a bunch of Flyers. So this is pretty much just better mana leak for us. Lofty Denial, I just love Lofty Denial. I hate playing against it for the most part, especially if our opponent has Flyers, but I love playing with the card when we do have Flyers. So Lofty Denial, fantastic counterspell to be playing in the deck. So that's our entire main board except our lands here. It's going to be really, really fast going through them here. We're playing 4 Seachrome Coast, 4 Hallowed Fountain, and 4 Addercar Waste. They're the best untapped duels that we could be playing in the format overall. We're playing 4 Hengegate Pathway. It's the blue-white pathway, comes in untapped on the whatever side we want. Then we're playing 1 Otawara and 1 Aganjo. Obviously, great flex lands to be playing in the deck regardless. Then we're also playing 2 Islands and 1 Plains as our basic lands. So I know we always talk about the fancy basic land of the day. I decided to play a couple of the Battle for Zendikar lands. Also, under the same artist, I'm not going to try and pronounce that because I will probably say it wrong. But regardless, this is some of my favorite artwork of the Zendikar block in general. I have a ton of these islands and plains myself, and they're definitely one of my favorites. So, very cool to be playing in the deck. So, hopping into the sideboard here. We are playing 3 Damping Spheres, 2 mana artifact. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces colorless instead of any other type and amount. Each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that players cast this turn. I feel like I talk about this every one of my videos, but it's really good against Lotus Combo, Nykthos, solid against Arclight Phoenix just because it's harder for them to bring back the Phoenixes out of the graveyard. Damping Sphere is a staple card in Pioneer. I might as well just auto-include it in every one of my sideboards for sure. We're also playing 3 Portable Holes, 1 white artifact. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until Portable Hole leaves the battlefield. Obviously, there's a lot of permanents in the metagame that cost mana value 2 or less that are very, very good to get rid of. So Portable Hole is pretty much a staple in every white deck in the format. We are playing 2 Deafening Silence as well, 1 white enchantment. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. Pretty much with the Deafening Silence, it really it's a very narrow sideboard card, but when it's good, it's really good. For instance, it's good against Lotus combo. It's good against like the Rona combo decks that are floating around. Those are kind of the two main reasons you want it. You can also bring it against Arclight Phoenix once again. Deafening Silence, when this card is good, it is fantastic in the sideboard. That's why we're playing 2 copies. Rounding out our sideboard, we're playing 3 Rest in Peace, 1 white enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from all graveyards. If a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Obviously, arguably the best graveyard hate card in the entire game. It's in white. It's fantastic. We're playing 3 copies of it. If our opponent's playing any graveyard shenanigans, we're bringing in the Rest in Peace. We're also playing 2 Aether Gusts, 1 in a blue instant. Choose target spell or permanent that's red or green. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. Obviously, if our opponent's playing red or green spells, we're probably going to want to bring in the Aether Gust. What's really cool, obviously, it's a permanent or a spell, so if it's on the stack, we can do it. If it's like a creature or a permanent in play, we can also cast the Aether Gust. So, fantastic card. Then, rounding out our sideboard, we are playing 2 Dovin's Veto. 1 white and a blue, instant. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. It's a negate that's uncounterable. This is the card I'm the most unsure of in the sideboard. There's definitely quite a few different options you could play in the sideboard. Like I was thinking about maybe like Mystical Dispute or maybe even some Skyclave Apparitions to try and get some more removal for the deck. There's definitely a lot. Surge of Salvation. I'm not really sure, but I don't know what the best option is, but I decided to just play the Dovin's Veto just because it's a very, very powerful card. So anyways, that is the entire deck. This one we definitely went by really, really fast. I think this is a really fun deck. I'm definitely considering a building myself. I don't have a lot of the lands personally, but I think this deck looks really, really fun. Maybe I'll just end up playing a budget version of it with some of the cheap blue-white lands. But anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for watching this episode of Pioneer Deck Tech. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you like about the list? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Just let me know below. And the deck list is in the description below if you'd like to check it out for yourself. I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.